Old school Big 12 versus new school Big 12. That's what we get in our second college football playoff quarterfinal. The Texas Longhorns took care of business in their opening first round game, and now they get to go up against the champions of their old conference. Texas was runner-up for the SEC, but a newcomer to the Big 12, and one of the surprises of college football, the Arizona State Sun Devils earned their way to a top 4 seed, a first round bye, and now they get to stick it to a team that left a conference that they just won. The Texas Longhorns and the Arizona State Sun Devils should be a good one in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl from Atlanta, Georgia. We'll tell you everything you need to know about the Longhorns and Sun Devils here in just a little bit. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to more college football playoff quarterfinal predictions. I'm previewing, predicting every college football playoff quarterfinal game on my channel today. We've already previewed Penn State and Boise State, and if you want to hear my thoughts on that one, as well as the other two videos, or the other two games, that'll have videos coming out later today. And hey, if you're just as big of a college football nerd as I am, got to make sure hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. You can also like, comment, share. And if you simply just want to kick back, relax, watch this video and any of my other videos, I'd greatly appreciate any support that I may get. Any way you interact with the channel helps to support it. And if you want to interact with me outside of YouTube, go give me a follow on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it, and Instagram. It's at TailgateNate29. You can see interviews I do, games I cover, as well as everything else I do as a sports media student over there on my social media platforms. That's kind of my New Year's resolution. Going to hope to start posting a little bit more on social media. And if you just want to get inside my crazy mind of mine, please go support me any way you can. I really appreciate all the support. But let's now decide whether or not it'll be horns up or forks up in the game in Atlanta, Georgia. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we're going to go through some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So we are first going to look at the Texas Longhorn offense against the Arizona State Sun Devil defense, and then we'll flip it. We'll take a look at the Forks offense against the Horns defense, and at the end of the video, we'll go through some final keys to the game, sort of tell you how I think the game is going to play out, as well as give you a final prediction for who comes away a winner in the game between the Longhorns and the Sun Devils. Again, it's new school versus old school, Big 12 style in the home of the SEC, which might give Texas a little bit of an advantage because they do get to play in Atlanta, where they just played the SEC championship game. And then if they win, I think they get to go to the Cotton Bowl in Arlington. So another pretty hefty advantage there. But I mean, hey, if you're Arizona State, you're looking to get back to AT&T Stadium too, where you just won a Big 12 title, and then you would play in a college football playoff semi-final game. Texas took care of business in the game against Clemson last time out. It was a 38-24 win in dominating fashion. Give Clemson credit. They were able to make it close. They were able to make it competitive, but the run game of Texas was simply too much, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But actually, let's talk about it right now. This Texas run game was absolutely outstanding against the Clemson Tigers. You take a look at what Texas was able to do there in that game. I mean, it was Jaden Blue and Quintravion Wisner. Both of them ran really well. 146 yards, a pair of touchdowns for Jaden Blue, including ripping off a 77-yard run that sealed the game for Texas. And Quintravion Wisner didn't have as dynamic of a day. Long run was only 22 yards, but 15 carries for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both of them over 7 yards per carry, and Jaden Blue over 10 yards per carry. You saw Jaden Blue over on the thumbnail screen just a little bit ago. This is a Texas run game that has sort of found its stride late. Now, it didn't really have what it needed to win the SEC championship game against Georgia, and actually both times Texas played against Georgia, they could not find that run game. But in an injured running back room, Wisner has stepped up. And Jaden Blue, give him some more touches, because I think he is a very, very dynamic weapon that is going to play a huge part. Now, I mentioned in the last preview when we previewed Texas's game against Clemson that Arch Manning was going to have to be a factor at some point. Now, he did have 3 carries, but didn't go anywhere with those 3 carries and did not throw a single pass in the game against Clemson. Did he have to in order for them to win the game? Well, obviously not. Texas won that game by 14. But Arch Manning is going to have to start becoming a factor as you get later into this tournament, especially against an Arizona State team that has a pretty darn good run defense themselves. Again, the sneaky little secret about Clemson is their run defense really was not that good. Arizona State's is. It was able to shut down the Iowa State by committee rushing attack, and they've only allowed just under 120 rushing yards per game all season long. Now, what makes this Arizona State defense really, really potent is their ability to force turnovers. They forced quite a bit of turnovers in the game against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. You take a look at how many turnovers they were able to force there. Getting the number, they forced 3 in that game. Go back to the game against Arizona. Well, they only forced 1, but they're a much more talented team than Arizona this year. They forced 2 against BYU back in the Kansas State game. I believe they forced 3. Yeah, they did. So being able to generate those takeaways is what has helped this Sun Devil defense take over some of these games. Now, obviously, the bigger story for them is on the offensive side of the ball, but very well for this game, it could end up being how the defense is able to slow down this Texas rushing attack that, when it hasn't gone up against Georgia for the most part this year, has been pretty stout. And how does it solve Quinn Ewers? This is not an Arizona State team that is going to get a ton of pressure. But when teams do get pressure, aka Georgia, Texas has had a lot of problems with that, and Texas's offense has been very turnover happy, which does help Arizona State's case out tenfold. Now, let's talk about Quinn Ewers for a second, because I do believe that he's going to have to be a pretty significant player here in this game, because I think the run game, while it will work at points just because this Texas offensive front is more physical than the Arizona State defensive front, I also believe they are a little bit more talented, even though they have seen their fair share of struggles this year. It's just not an Arizona State team that's going to overwhelm you with the amount of pressure that they can bring, right? They just play very sound rush defense, and they do all of these little things right. I think Quinn Ewers is going to have to be able to utilize his arm here, and I think Ewers is going to have to be on his A game, because we've seen time and time again when Quinn Ewers struggles, this Texas team as a whole really, really struggles. And he had some good moments in the SEC championship game. You take a look at what Quinn Ewers did against Texas: 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Had some okay moments, had some what do you do in Quinn Ewers moments. Again, it was the run game that really took center stage for Texas there. And look, they're going to have to find their run game as well. They have got to keep that run game consistent. It's got to translate into this quarterfinal matchup, and Quinn Ewers has to be on his A game. If we get the Quinn Ewers that is making mistakes up and down the field, that puts Arizona State right in the midst of being able to go and win this game. Texas can beat this Arizona State secondary easily, and I believe when this Texas run game is on, they're going to be able to get through this Arizona State rush defense. Texas has been inconsistent offensively this year. Let's see which side they bring. Now, if you are the Arizona State Sun Devils, you don't have much of a pass rush. At least you haven't proven to have much of a pass rush so far this year. I think something is going to have to come to life there. Now, and also being able to get off the field on third downs. This is the Texas offense that is inconsistent on third downs as well, and overall on the season is pretty good, but not elite at getting or at continuing drives on third down. Texas loves to beat you on first down and second down, and they can beat you on third down. They're inconsistent in doing that, much like the rest of their offense this season. You have to be able to find this pass rush, because if you get pressure to Quinn Ewers, it breaks this entire system down. Much like Indiana, when you're able to get pressure on Curtis Rourke, the offense comes to a screeching halt. If this Arizona State team is able to get pressure on Quinn Ewers, I don't think this Texas offense is going to come to a halt, but I think it is going to get them rattled, and it's going to provide something that they're not necessarily prepared for when you look at the tape that Arizona State does provide, because they don't provide a team that can get back to the quarterback at this prolific rate. I think they're going to have to be here. I think they're going to have to find a lot more of a pass rush than what they have found earlier this season. They got to get back to Quinn Ewers. They got to affect the game in the backfield somehow and be able to get Texas behind the sticks. But again, I'll mention it a little bit more. The turnover battle is crucial. There have been times this year where this Texas offense has been very turnover happy, and this Arizona State defense, especially as of late, has been fantastic at forcing turnovers. If that is going to be the case, and if Texas loses the turnover battle here, watch out. That's when the Sun Devil team can strike, but they have to go up against one of, if not the best defense in the entire country. Cam Scattaboo has his work cut out for him. And I'll ask this question right away. It's the first thing in that little box there in the center of your screen right below me. Can Scattaboo solve this Texas defensive front? Because it's one of the best rush defenses in college football, only averages around 105 rushing yards per game. Now, granted, this Clemson backfield was beat up, and Phil Maffa only had 2 carries, and they weren't to their strength, but they only allowed Clemson to get 3.2 yards per carry. You go back and see what Texas has done against Georgia, though. I mean, they still they allowed under 4 yards per carry in the SEC championship game, but it was the run game grinding down this Texas defense that helped Georgia win the game. And then Gunnar Stockton came in, played some okay minutes, but again, it was this run game and the defense that wore Texas down in the SEC championship game. The run game couldn't really wear them down in the Clemson game because Phil Maffa was injured. They weren't up to full strength, but this Texas run defense is also really, really good. You're going up against probably the best running back that you have seen all season long. Cam Scattaboo is a dynamic force. He had an amazing Big 12 championship game, and he's going to look to continue that momentum here. Let me tell you what he did in the Big 12 championship. 16 carries, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is as dynamic as any running back we have in the country, maybe outside of Ashton Genty, but Cam Scattaboo is a workhorse. He is dynamic. I love his work ethic as well. He's got to be able to solve this Texas defensive front. More importantly than him, though, this Arizona State offensive line has got to be able to solve the Texas defensive front, because not only is it really good at providing pressure and being able to slow down this run game, getting off blocks and being able to tackle guys like Cam Scattaboo, it's also one of the best pass rushes we have in the country. It's got 42 sacks this year. And yeah, Arizona State's been good at forcing turnovers. So is this Texas defense. They got 29 turnovers forced on the season. And you go back and you look at what they did in the game against Clemson. I believe they had a pair of turnovers forced, maybe more. Okay, nope, just one. I'm misremembering something in that game, obviously. But both times they've played both times they've played Georgia, Texas has. Yes, while the offense has been very turnover happy, the defense has forced some good turnovers there as well. Now, the other question with Arizona State. Obviously, Cam Scattaboo is going to be the main focus. Can he solve this defensive front? Because he is the main focus of this Arizona State offense. Sam Leavitt. He's been up and down this year, but he hasn't really had to do so much in a game because Cam Scattaboo has just been running really well. And you don't have Tyson. Again, before that Big 12 championship game, he had season-ending surgery, and it's going to put him out of this college football playoff game as well. What other weapons can you find? What other guys can you form chemistry with? And can Sam Leavitt, who also can get outside of the pocket and run, how does he affect this game? Because that is what I think is the main biggest difference on this side of the ball. Yeah, you can talk about the Texas pass rush. Yeah, you can talk about Texas forcing turnovers. Yeah, you can talk about the battle on the line of scrimmage. Even Cam Scattaboo against this big physical Texas front. Where's the Sam Leavitt talk? Sam Leavitt, I think, is as big of a factor as Cam Scattaboo is in this game. Because, yeah, Scattaboo can run and run. I don't think he's going to be ripping off these big play, chunk yardage gains against this Texas defensive front, because they quite simply are just too physical and too good for Scattaboo to do that all game long. And give all the credit in the world to this Arizona State offensive front. It's played phenomenal this season. But I don't think they're going to be able to consistently allow Scattaboo to hit big hole after big hole because of how physical this Texas defense is, because of how physical this Texas defensive front is. And we have seen what happens when this Longhorn defense takes over. More on that later. Wide receivers. Again, Tyson is out. Scattaboo is the second leading receiver here in this game. Let's imagine he is out of the wide receiving picture for right now, even though we know he's going to be here in this game. There are only 3 guys that have over 250 receiving yards besides Tyson and Scattaboo. That's Xavier Gilroy. He's going to have to make a big impact. It's the tight end in Medier, as well as Melquan Stovall. And even when you tack onto that, those guys have Actually, only one of those guys has over 20 catches, and you can add a fourth guy in there who's the backup running back, Brown, and those are the only guys that have over 10 catches for Arizona State this season. Again, it was mainly Tyson, 1,000-yard receiver, really dynamic weapon. Now with him being out, Arizona State and Sam Levitt is going to have to find something through that pass game. They're going to have to find something to be able to beat this Texas secondary. Now, I've talked about how good this Texas defensive front has been, and it is. It is very, very good because it's very physical. The secondary is really darn good as well. Again, one of the most, if not the most, well-rounded defense in the entire country, and the way they're able to create pressure, the way they're able to force turnovers, and we've seen what happens when this Texas defense takes over before. You saw it against Texas A&M. When this Longhorn defense does everything that they want to do and then some, that is when opposing offenses, just can't do anything. And this Texas offense is too talented to where even if the opposing defense is playing lights out, you know this Texas offense is going to get some points on the board. And this Texas defense is lights out. These are a lot of very big keys that I have touched on here. Again, Cam Skattebo, how well does he run? That's just such a big factor here because if he can't get anything going, Arizona State is going to hit or is going to be sent to bed pretty darn quickly here. Texas played really well in that game against Clemson. Now, they did let Clemson get out to that hot start, and they did let Clemson take that lead. But ever since that point, Texas, the defense took over. They stepped up. Clemson was able to make it a game late, but then it was the rushing attack that really took over. The rushing attacks are going to have to take over for both of these teams and are going to have to try to solve the opposing defensive fronts. Again, the sneaky little secret about the Clemson defense this year is that run defense just wasn't very good. This Arizona State run defense has been good all season long. I have said that, and I don't think I've given you stats to back that up. Okay, let's take a look at what Arizona State did against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. They allowed Iowa State 4 yards per carry on 32 carries. You definitely can get that a whole lot lower. I think when it comes down to it in this game, I think the physicality level is going to tell a lot about who's going to win this game. And 99% of people out there are going to agree with me and say that Texas is a hell of a lot more physical than what Arizona State has been. Now, Arizona State is a run-first team. They love running it with Cam Skattebo. They're by nature a physical team. The Texas defense's physicality will take over. Even if Cam Skattebo is able to find this rhythm, the physicality when Sam Levitt drops back to pass is going to take over and Texas will get its sacks. They're going to get Arizona State behind the sticks. And this Texas offense, I'm going to assume they're going to play as well as they showed us they could in that Clemson game. The run game steps up, and Quinn Ewers has himself a good game. This is Texas's to lose. They are the near 2-touchdown favorite. Now, I happen to believe that Arizona State is going to keep it a little bit closer than that, and they will get a late score to make this thing close, much like what Clemson was able to do. And then, of course, Texas got that late score. I got 30-24 because I do think Cam Skattebo poses a very unique challenge, and I do think that Texas is going to have a little bit of trouble slowing that down. And again, I think Arizona State is going to get a late score here to make this one seem a little bit more respectable. And a lot of credit to Arizona State, man. They had a phenomenal season. They got some phenomenal players. I just think the physicality level, I don't think they're able to match it. I think this Texas offensive front with Arizona State not having much of a pass rush this year is going to be able to take over, especially in that run game. The Texas defense has that pass rush. They'll take over, and Texas will beat Arizona State and move on to a college football playoff semifinal. Let me know what you guys think about this game in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next one. The rematch, Oregon-Ohio State, is up next. Goodbye.